right, hey everybody, just getting started now, a couple minutes early, so we will start on time. So you should, in fact, now be hearing something. I just want to remind everybody, I hope you guys set yourself up in a place with a good internet connection. Sometimes, and I'll say I've watched these myself from a bullpen in an office, and sometimes, the internet connection gets a little rough. If that's the case, I recommend just try sometimes hitting a refresh on your keyboard. Sometimes that can kind of give it a little kick, and it'll be okay. So hit F5 on your keyboard if ever you're having issues. Just to reassert this, I don't know if I just got cut off a little bit there, but just to reassert it, if you're having issues, we're going to get started in a second, but if you're having issues, you can hit F5 on your keyboard. In Chrome, you'll see you can hit Control-R. You see this up on the screen, so you can hit Control-R or F5. And we're going to get started in just a second. Thanks so much for everybody introducing themselves. I love seeing it, and I love sharing that with Richard, who's our presenter today, to kind of let him know that we are, in fact, coast to coast today. So definitely, and in between as well, Jesse, yes, I'm not forgetting that you're here from Royal LePage Prime in Winnipeg, so it's awesome to have literally every province in Canada represented to here. So again, it's an opportunity for you to say a quick hi to your colleagues from across Canada in the chat box. You should have that on the right side of your screen. I think it's usually at the bottom of the screen if it's on mobile as well. I also remind you before we get started that these webinars are recorded. You could actually rewatch this when you're done. So usually that's a question that will come up. People say, oh, can I rewatch this webinar? And yeah, you can in fact rewatch this webinar again. So, oh, fantastic. We got Montreal, Quebec, Toronto, team out in Ottawa, Royal LePage Atlantic, coming in from all over, Royal LePage Kelowna, Noralta. I haven't seen the Calgary folks yet. So let's hope. But I think we're all good to get started. So thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in to October's Sales Success webinar. I want to keep it short and sweet because today we have a really fantastic one for you. Single most important metric you need to track, featuring Richard Robbins. And Richard Robbins is on the line right now. He's waiting to speak, and I'm holding him back. Rich, you're still there, right?
I am still here.
Okay, good. He didn't walk away. Fantastic. Now, I encourage you to chat, ask questions in the chat box if you want. I love seeing the chat going on. Again, it's an opportunity for you to speak with colleagues from across. There we go. We got Vancouver Island coming in too. It's a chance for you to speak to colleagues from across Canada. And again, as mentioned, the webinar is recorded. You can rewatch it the moment you're done. I'd like to remind everybody of why we're here, and that's Royal LePage's promise to you. And we're here to help you maximize your earning potential by providing you with powerful business tools, access to leads and referrals, and training for all stages of your career that builds your skills. And I hope you'll stick around a little bit at the end. I'm going to talk about the next upcoming Sales Success webinar in November. We got a really good one coming up in November as well. And of course, we have a pretty nice library of Sales Success webinars available to you in the RLP network, not to mention Building Your Tech Toolkit webinars. So I'll invite you to the next Building Your Tech Toolkit as well. But I want to pass things over to Richard as soon as possible. Now, I hope some of you here, and let us know, maybe some of you saw him speak at the National Sales Conference in Vegas. We were just having a quick chat about that. But, Richard Robbins himself, his audience describe him as a true leader. And I mean, you saw it. This is one of the pictures that was taken from the National Sales Conference. He's got a lot of integrity. He's led his organization for nearly 2 decades as one of North America's most preeminent authorities on real estate sales and business performance. And that's what he's so good at, getting the best performance out of people. And I love seeing him speak. I've seen him speak a number of times. He probably doesn't even know it, but I was in the audience a couple times. I usually sit in the back and take my notes. But of course, he comes from a background in real estate, so he knows where you're from. He's from Peterborough, Ontario himself. And in his first year as a realtor, he earned a 6-figure salary and did that every single year of his career. In 1989, he opened his own brokerage, and through his leadership, inspired his brokerage of only 20 agents to achieve the highest production per agent of any brokerage within its trading area. And it was there that he discovered his profound passion for speaking, helping others really achieve their goals. So I'm so excited to have everybody introducing themselves everywhere from Victoria to Atlantic Canada and everywhere in between for this webinar today. Of course, Richard Robbins, a keynote speaker from the National Sales Conference in Las Vegas, and our newest training partner. So if you haven't seen, and we're going to talk about it a little bit today, but Richard Robbins International is our newest training partner for Royal LePage. So with that, I'll turn things over to Rich.
Michael, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here with everybody today. I think you can see me. Can they see me, Mike? You know, when I use
I can make them see you. There you
go.
go.
No, okay, there we go. No,
there you go.
I'm just kidding. We're going to have PowerPoint up. But anyway, listen, it's really great to be with everybody today. We have a very interesting topic. We're going to talk a little bit about business planning, but really the number one metric that you want to track. Now, I'll be honest with you, this generally isn't the most important topic that people want to listen to. Obviously, it's a little more sexy. We talk about lead generation, lead conversion, how to convert more listings, how to convert more buyers. But saying that, I believe this message is extremely important. It is something actually we start to work on with all of our coaches starting November 1st. So November 1st, what we do is we start to work on their business plans. We have an event that comes up at the end of November, 28th and 29th this year. Our coaching members are there. And then what we do is we get their business plans all completed by the first week of December. That is our goal with all the people we're working with. So I want to say to Mike, the timing couldn't be any better for this. So I think it's a good time to have this topic, even though I know there's still a lot left in 2016. But let's look at what we can do to make 2017 a little bit better. So I love this first quote. And this first quote said that every minute spent planning will save you 2 minutes in execution. And I think we can all agree with that. I put a little visual up here, the next slide, that it sort of demonstrates, I think, what happens to a lot of real estate agents. And I honestly can remember I was there. The first many years of my career, it was just every day I'd go into work and I was doing it, trying to figure out how to find another lead. I lived in something we called silent desperation. And silent desperation is where I wanted another sale really bad, but I really had no idea how and when it was going to come, which means I just kept running because every time the phone rang, every time I got an email back then, you know, we didn't have as much social media back in my sales days, but now it would be every time you get a text, somebody reaches out to you. I was grabbing everything and I lived in a very reactive state. I wasn't proactive. And one of the reasons, honestly, is I had no plan. Right, I just went to work every day. I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to do, so I would try to generate leads. Every time a lead came in, I would try to get it as fast as I possibly could, which means sometimes I'd literally disrupt my dinner, you know, to maybe take a call. I'd be taking a call when I was maybe away with my wife, and I got a crazy story about that when I was away on holidays. So anyway, that's what I think business planning can bring to you. It can bring to you maybe a little more proactivity, maybe a little more certainty. In other words, you know how to produce results. Business planning can allow you to, very often done properly, show you exactly how to produce results. When you move into January, you're not starting with that pit in your stomach thinking to yourself, boy, I got to start at zero, and you know, I'm a little bit nervous, I'm a little bit fearful because I had a decent year last year, but I don't quite know how I did it, which means we don't know how to replicate what we did in 2017, and that uncertainty breeds a little bit of fear. But the first thing I want to discuss, I'm going to take you into the 7 steps of business planning. They're very simple steps. I don't believe in complicated business plans. I like very simple business plans. But the first metric I want to talk to you about or ask you about is what is the number one metric that all agents should be tracking? Now, let me explain that. How do you know at the end of every week whether you've won or lost? How do you know at the end of every week whether you accomplished the goal you needed to accomplish that week, which will continue to lead to you accomplishing your annual income goal? Like, what do you measure? And unfortunately, in some cases, people say nothing. Some people, well, maybe the amount of people I talk to, you know, maybe, you know, if I get a listing or I do a sale. But what is the one metric that will tell you whether you're on track or off track? Think about this. We have 12 months in every year, and each month is worth 8.3% of our year, which technically means at the end of January, we should be at 8.3%. Now, you might say, well, maybe we're going to, you know, go lower in January. It's going to be slower, and then we'll do a higher percentage in, you know, March, April, May, June. That's a whole other story, but I'm just saying, what is it that we're tracking? I don't think that most people have one metric. They might have too many, or they might have none, but what is that one metric that you can track? And I believe it's appointments. I believe the metric that we work with our clients on is we need to track how many face-to-face appointments, okay? Do you need to get on every single week to achieve your annual income goal. I'm going to show you how to create that as we move through some of this information. But I want you to keep that in mind as I take you through the 7 steps. So if we go back to the 7 steps of business planning, you might want to write these down. I know you can watch this again should you choose. But here is step number 1. I call it the perfect year. Now, my wife and I started this about 3 years ago, and we found this to be such a cool exercise. So what we do is every year we sit down and we write down exactly what it will cost us in the upcoming year to have the perfect year. Let me explain this. So what we figure out is okay, how much money do we need to make to manage our basic expenses? So obviously, that's your mortgage, that's your maybe car payments if you have any car payments, hydro, heat, just your basics, right? So how much money do you need to manage your basics? But then let's take it up a notch. Let's say, well, how many holidays do you want to get next year? You want to go on 2? Do you want to go on 3? Do you want to go on 4? Well, how much are you going to spend on each holiday, and write down that number? Well, how much do you want to save next year? So if you're going to make yourself $100,000, you want to put away maybe 15% of that or 10% of that. You pick the number you want to save, $10,000, right? Then you say, well, what do I want to purchase next year? Maybe there's some renovations you want to do in your home. You want to fix your garage up. Maybe you want to put a pool in your backyard. I don't know. You want to redo your kitchen. But make a decision. These are the things I want to do that would create a perfect year. How much do you want to spend on entertainment? How often do you want to go out for dinner? Do you want to go away for long weekends? But see, what most people do is they plan the opposite way. They think to themselves, well, I'm going to go to work and see how much money I make, and then let's see how much money I make, and then I can decide what I want to do with the money. I'm saying, bad plan. That's a really bad plan. See, what we got to do is we got to decide, what would a perfect year look like? I mean, you want to go on 4 holidays, great. I know one top agent that he actually goes away every 8 weeks. Every 8 weeks, he takes 1 week off, and it's planned in the month of October for the upcoming year. What a beautiful thing. He knows when he's going to be off. We should book our time off before we book our time on. But then once we've done all this, what we got to do is we got to say, okay, I want to save this much. Here's my holidays are going to cost. Here's the purchase I want to make. Here's some renovations I want to do. Here's the money I want to spend in charity. And then you got to say, well, if that's the case, how much will my taxes be? Because you've got to put your taxes in there. And then you can figure out what gross income you want to make. What will cause you to have the perfect year? Now, I'm not talking where you go from a year where maybe right now you're making $100,000 or $110,000, and of course taxes out of that, expenses out of that, and you got so much left, and all of a sudden you say, I'm going to quadruple that. Like, I want to get myself a private jet, I want to buy myself 3 cars and all that stuff. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? What I'm talking about is creating the perfect year within reason that you would like to live next year. And then we got to figure out how much that is going to cost. So as we move to the next slide, here's why this is important. Now, this is one of our basic fundamental teachings. Some of you might have seen this before. But if you look at it, most agents, they say, will earn within 15% of what they earn year after year after year. So in other words, their income doesn't change that dramatically. And I think one of the reasons it doesn't is because they don't change that dramatically, right? They continue to do most of the same things they've done before. Now, I understand economics can affect that. We've got new mortgage rules that have come out. If you're in Vancouver, you're dealing with a new, 15% tax for foreign buyers. So economics can obviously change, but generally speaking, most people earn very close to what they earn year after year after year. Well, if you look at these 3 circles, I think you all can agree of whatever you choose to do in the present, like whatever I choose to do today is creating my future. In other words, I choose to make X number of calls today, X number of calls, that's going to create my future, right? I choose to eat certain things today, that's going to create my future. I choose to brush my teeth today, that's going to create my future. I choose not to brush my teeth, today, a couple times, that's going to impact my future. So whatever I do today is actually going to create my tomorrow. Now, here's what happens. If we look at it and we say, well, the past is complete, right? The past is done. There's nothing we can do to go back and change that. What we do in the present is going to create our future. However, because most people, they can't see with absolute clarity what it is they want in their future. And I'm not just talking, vague wishes here. I'm talking with clarity. What do you want to see in your future? And because they can't see with clarity what it is they want in their future, what they tend to do today is the same things they've always done in the past. So they continue to do the same things in the present that they always did in the past. And if we continue doing the same things in the present that we always did in the past, then what happens? Our future becomes a repeat of our past. And that's why, generally speaking, most people don't see dramatic change in their income, sometimes in their life, because they generally continue to do the same things. It's habitual. You know, we drive to work the same way. We generally get up around the same time. We sort of do the first thing always the same when we get out of bed. You know, we tend to do many of the same things just before we go to bed. You know, we go to the office, which probably the first thing you sit down and you do something almost subconsciously. Well, these are habits, these are habitual, and we start to live and die by our habits. We create our habits, and our habits create our destiny. So what we've got to do is we've got to get clear. Once we can see, you say, okay, I want 4 holidays. I want to pay off this much debt. You know, I want to renovate this part of my house. You know, I want to buy maybe this car. And again, don't be unreasonable. Don't set goals that are so high you're not going to be able to achieve it. Because think about this. If you don't have $1 million idea, how will you ever find $1 million? Or I should say, if you don't have $1 million goal, how are you ever going to find $1 million idea? See, human beings are unbelievably creative. We will find the solutions once we know what the problem is. And the problem is, I want to have a perfect life. Now what I got to do is I got to make the money for the perfect life. So we've got to get clear on what it is we want. And then once we're clear on what it is we want, we decide how much that's going to cost, and you move into step 2, which is now you're going to create, which I call the number. Now, I'm going to say decide your income goal, because on these slides I want to keep it really simple so everybody understands it, but I happen to call it the number. What is your number? What's your number next year? Is your number gross income of 200, 250, 180, you know, $1 million, 2 million? I don't know what it is, but what is your number? We got to get really clear on what your number. Now, once we know what that is, now I'm talking obviously professionally here, then obviously now what we got to do is we got to take that number and we got to say, what are we going to monitor on a regular basis will allow us to achieve that? Because here's what happened. You say, okay, say right now somebody's making $100,000 a year and they want to go to 175. Well, if you want to go to 175, it requires different skills, doesn't it? Like, you got to get better at something. You know, you got to generate more leads. You got to convert better. You got to do better listing presentations, buyer better pricing. You got to better time management. You got to get better at something. You can't just keep doing the same thing and think all of a sudden, wow, you know, everything's going to change. Like, you know, that's more of a dream, right? What's the difference between a dream and a goal is a goal has a deadline, which means, you know, we've got to say, I'm going to be done by then, so we can determine what it is we need to do. But most people continually do the same thing. So what we got to do is say, first of all, what is the metric? What are we going to follow? So what I'd like to do is I want to take you in, and Dana's helping me here. You can't see her, but she's definitely out there. And she's going to bring something up on screen for you. And this is going to be called your goal setting simplified, because this third step is we want to take whatever is big and we want to make it small. So if you have a look at this, and we can make this available to you. And this is something we get all our coaching clients to do. Okay, again, I know we're into numbers here, and a lot of agents, oh boy, I don't really love numbers, but just hang with me here, okay, if you would. So you notice at the top it says the average income goal or annual income goal is $225,000. You can see up there where she's got her cursor. Now, what I want to do is I want to go down and I want to go to where it says efficiencies and benchmarks. You see efficiencies and benchmarks? So what we did with this particular agent is we looked at their business from last year. And we noticed that last year, 60% of their business came from listings sold and 40% came from buyer sales. We noticed based on last year, because you got to track your past to predict your future. So by doing this exercise, it forces you to look back and see how you did last year. We noticed that they sold 80% of their listings. Okay, if you're in Toronto, that should probably be 100. There's many markets where it wouldn't be. We also noticed, based on the past, that what they did is they converted 70% of their listing appointments into listings. That's what their conversion rate was. Not bad. I would like to see that up around 80, 85, but 70 is not all bad. Then buyer trips to sales. And we also track, well, how many buyer trips before a buyer actually buys from this agent? And we found it was 5. Now, that could be 5 times they went out together. It could be they just showed one house each time. But what we know is it's 5 buyer trips to get a buyer sale. We know their average commission is $7,000. We know they're not living in West Vancouver, right? Just kidding. And they want to work 48 weeks a year. So I call those efficiencies. They're our benchmarks. We got to track our past so we can predict our future. Then what we do is if we go back up to the top where you see it says $225,000. Well, that means for this person to make $225,000, they have to do 32 ends, 32 sales, because the average commission is $7,000. So 7 times 32 is $225,000. We know that 60% of their business is coming from listing sales, right? 60%. So that means 19 have to be listing sales and 13 will be buyer sales because 40% are coming from buyer sales. That means they need to take 24 listings over the course of a year because they're going to sell 80%, which is going to give them the 19 listing sales. We know they got to go on 34 listing appointments because they're going 34, they're going to convert 70%. That's going to get them 24 listings. They get 24 listings, 80% is going to sell. It's going to get them 19 sales. Then the amount of buyers, they've got to put people in their car or meet somebody at a house 64 times over the course of a year. Because times that by 5, right? Then you can see that it's going to get us eventually down to our 13 sales. So the total number of appointments they have to go on in 1 year is 99. And if they're working 48 weeks per year, that means they have to go on 2.1 appointments per week that they work. Now, this is interesting because there's the metric that we would want you to consider tracking and hold yourself accountable to. So think about this. Now, remember what I said. Human beings are incredibly creative and they can generally find what it is they're looking for. It's just, in a lot of cases, we don't know when we go to work every week, what are we looking for? What results are we trying to produce every single week? Like what one thing, forget everything else, what one thing could you produce every week that'll help you produce that result of $225,000? Well, guess what it is? It's 2 appointments. So now when you go to work Monday morning, the only thing you should be thinking about first thing Monday morning is how can I get 2 appointments this week? And then you look, say, well, I was at an open house this week. I'm going to phone back people at the open house and see if I can get somebody in a car and show a house, see if I can go price somebody else's house into a listing appointment. Because now you're focused. You start to focus down to the results that you actually want to produce instead of busyness. It's easy to be busy, hard to be productive. You look at it today, so many people are addicted to this right here, their phone. They're not living a proactive life, they're living a reactive life, okay? But what's interesting about this, if I change your efficiencies, I can get that number down. So let's say I got 2.1 appointments right now. So let's go down and say that my average commission is $7,000. Now let's say we want to get that up because maybe we're not negotiating as well as we should be negotiating. So let's say we're going to get our average commission up to say $8,500, which we help lots of clients with. That's what we should be doing. We just went down to 1.7 appointments. But let's say this. Let's say we say, well, our efficiencies are a little low because we got to work in our listing presentation because we want to get to a 90% sold percentage, okay? Or 90% conversion percentage, sorry, from 70%. Well, if we change that to 90%, what happens to the one? It goes down to 1.6. And then we're going to sell 90% of our listings because these are skill building. Now we know what skills we got to work on. So if we're now going to sell 90% instead of 80%, where does that move us to? Okay, so you can see Dana changing them. Now we're down to 1.5 appointments. Now let's go real crazy, okay? And this is what's cool. You can take this document and you can play with all of the numbers to figure out how many appointments you have to go on. But let's say this, watch this number. Let's say what we do is say, all I'm going to do is try to get listings, and the only buyers I'm going to work with are the ones that come from my listings. Now, not every person that's going to sell is going to buy. We think it's about a 70-30 ratio. So if you just look for listings, you're probably going to do about 70% listings sold and 30% buyers because a lot of the buyers move out of the area. They don't buy, they decide to rent, whatever the case is. So let's move that number from, to 70-30, which he's already done, which now it just moved it down to what, 1.3. So as we change these numbers, that number goes down. So now it's 1.3 instead of 2.1. So you can now see, right, by changing certain efficiencies. So maybe you're going to find, well, I'm only converting 50% of my listing appointments. Well, on average, I take somebody out 10 times before they buy. Now you can figure out where you got to get a little bit better, because we benchmark these. We know high efficiencies and we know low efficiencies. Maybe you're going to say, I'm taking the average buyer out 7 times, and 70% of my business is coming from buyers. So if we do that, you're taking them out 7 times, 70% is coming from buyers, 30% from listings. You now got to do 3 appointments every single week. You see? But what's cool, you notice below that, it says a dollar value per appointment. So what that means is when you go on that appointment, whether you get the business or don't get the business, technically you just made $1,600 because of your conversions. Remember, a sale is worth $8,500, but a lot of people don't like to get rejected. Well, our theory is there's no problem with rejection. I just got to get on 3 appointments every single week. And if I constantly get a little better at my efficiencies, then what's going to happen? I'm going to be able to produce a higher result in a shorter period of time. Okay, so anyway, step number 3 was we've got to take the big and we want to make it really small. So we go back. Step 1, we're going to create what I call the perfect year. Okay, so get serious. Sit down with your husband, sit down with your wife, your life partner, if you're by yourself, whatever, and have some fun. Like literally sit down and say, I'm going to sit here and write down all the things we want to do next year. And then once you write them all down, then decide how much is that going to cost, and include income tax. Really important, include income tax. How much is that going to cost? Now you got the number. There's the number. Now you're going to take the number and you're going to put it into the sheet, and you're going to figure out how many appointments I need to go on every week, because that becomes your focus. Every single week there's one thing you're going to try to achieve, and it's that number of appointments. And then step number 4, now what we have to do is figure out how are we going to generate the leads, because obviously leads lead to appointments. But appointments is what it is you really need, but lead generation will get us there. So if you look at all the ways to generate leads, you've got repeat, referral, telephone prospecting, getting involved in your community, strategic alliance or strategic partnerships, advertising, mostly online now, door knocking, open houses, for sale by owners. For sale by owners, you know, there's not as many of those floating around because we got mere postings going on. We got social media, geofarming, web and internet, lead follow. That's pretty well it. But here's one of the challenges I see when people are creating a business plan is they look at all these ways of generating business, and most people do a little bit of everything. And my theory is this: what you want to do is you want to own, I mean absolutely own, 3 strategies. So in other words, if you got 100 people in your database, we can get you 20 deals from that, right? We know that if you follow our open house course, which I'm going to show you in RI on Demand where that is, if you follow our open house course, we can get you 1 sale per 2.4 open houses. Okay, so we know those numbers. But the challenge is, you know, people say, oh, I'll do an open house once in a while. But is it really one of your major strategies? Are you great at doing open houses? Because when we play around with everything a little bit, we become great at nothing. I believe you're much better to master 3 lead generating systems, own them, track the results, constantly get better at them, than to be playing around with a whole bunch. So do you have to do social media to succeed in real estate? No. Can you do social media and succeed in real estate? Yes. Do you have to do open houses to succeed in real estate? No. Can you do open houses and succeed in real estate? Yes. But everybody generally does a little bit of everything instead of master something. So pick your 3 best lead generating strategies. And when I show you the business planning course, you can go in there and you can put where they all came from last year and have a little look and master a few. But understand this: with every lead generating strategy, it's not really just to generate leads. The goal of generating leads is to get face to face. All you want to do is get face to face appointments. Like when you meet a prospect and they're interested in the house, can I meet you there at 2 o'clock? You know, somebody, you're at a party and they're talking about, well, boy, you know, we've been thinking about moving, you know, the market's really good. And, you know, we're not quite sure what our house is worth. No problem. Would you like me to stop by Monday? I can stop by at say 1, or maybe would 3 work better for you? Get face to face. Every time you're speaking with a lead, have one objective, I should say, get face to face. Then the 5th step in creating your plan, and we'll show you how to create it, is you need a highly productive schedule. So here's my question. Does your present schedule, what you do all day long, does it reflect your highest values? Does it reflect the goals you've set for yourself? Because if you think about it, and I know you've heard this before, but it's sometimes we need to be reminded as much as we need to be taught. I know I read things all the time and I go, wow, how did I ever forget that, right? But what's the difference between a $100,000 producer and $1 million producer? It's what they do with their time. It's really nothing more, nothing less. You might say, well, they're a little more skilled. Well, that's probably because they took some of their time and they worked on, their skills. They developed listing presentations. They developed buyer presentations. They developed how to do incredible open houses to get 50 people through every time. Like, they developed their skills. That's what sets them apart. So they took time to have to do that. So you say we're all born with 24 hours in each day. If we're all born with 24 hours in each day, and if one person is making $1 million, the other person is making 100, we go, what is the difference? It's not time. Like, time is perishable. Time doesn't care what you do with it, but time will deliver on what you do with it. That's what time does. It's the way the world works, right? So most people, again, this is what drives their day. This vibrating and ringing and beeping and banging and everything else. And that's really what drives their day. And they're not in a proactive state. They're in a reactive state. See, if we spend all day responding to everybody else, we're helping everybody else achieve our goals. But the question is, are we moving towards ours? Like Benjamin Franklin, he used to write down all his virtues, he called them. He wrote down his virtues, and then he made sure that things he did today were totally in line with his virtues. So that, yes, I want to have a strong family relationship. Well, am I having dinner every night with my family? That's important. I don't want to burn out. Great. Are you taking one day off every week? I don't feel like I'm enjoying myself right now. I need time away. Well, great. We'll book a holiday every 3 or 4 months. Like, well, I don't know what you need to do, but that's what I mean by time will determine everything. What you choose to do with your time is going to determine everything. So if you want to be $1 million producer, then follow the schedule of $1 million producer. So I've brought you 2 schedules, and they're a little different schedules, but I just wanted you to see. These are a couple of our coaching clients. So the first one is Marnie Campbell. Marnie's actually out in Calgary. And if you have a look at Marnie, so she gets up, and the first thing she does in the morning, we called our review and reflection. She reviews her goals, right? She meditates, prays, that sort of thing. And then, then she gets some form of exercise. Okay? The breakfast gets ready, and then, of course, gets to the office by 9, and she does her email catch-up. You can see what's going on. Monday, she got the brokerage meeting. Tuesday, she got a team meeting. Okay, she works with 2 other people. And then what she commits is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to setting appointments. That's the prospecting part. That's when she, reaches out, texts people, whatever it is, but she is proactively trying to set appointments. And then she schedules her appointments for the afternoon. So you can see from 1 o'clock roughly to 4:30, she'll do appointments and then maybe catch up in emails. And then she takes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday off, and the evening, Saturday night off, and all day Sunday. And then she'll do appointments on Tuesday and Thursday. Now, what's cool when you see a schedule like this is that Marnie will now try to fit the appointments into her schedule. Somebody says, hey, Marnie, I'd like you to come and price my house. And she said, well, not a problem. I'm looking at my schedule. I'm available. Would Tuesday afternoon work, or maybe would Thursday evening be better? Because she knows when she wants to do the appointments. So she gets everybody to fit into her schedule rather than the other way around, us fitting into everybody else's schedule. It's like this. People say, we want you to give us a price on our house. We're thinking about selling. Can you more of a talk about that? Sure. What time you'd like to get together? Now, what time do they pick? It's usually 8 o'clock at night after the kids have gone to bed, right? Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. What you want to do is you want to take control and fit them into your schedule. Now, the question is, does she follow the schedule 100% of the time? No. Our goal is to have our members try to stay on schedule to the best of their ability 80%. Because if she follows the schedule 80% of the time, man, she's highly productive business, what she does. She's number 1 in her office. Now, let's say she doesn't have an appointment on Tuesday between 1 and 4. Then what should she do with that time? She should try to set appointments. Remember, the number 1 metric we all track is an appointment. So what she should be doing, if she doesn't have an appointment, she should be somehow, some way trying to set one. Maybe stop and by for a visit with somebody. But it's all proactive work. It's not, sitting and playing on Facebook and that sort of thing. She knows now that if I don't have an appointment, then I better sit down and figure out how to get one. Maybe I'm going to phone back some of those leads. I'm going to phone some past clients, right? Get in touch with some people I haven't talked to in a while. Maybe catch up with all of the appointments that I've had this year of people that haven't bought. All those CMAs I went on, whatever the case is. maybe go and do some door knocking, whatever you choose to do. But if you don't have an appointment, then you should be trying to set one, because remember, the metric that we got to track is how many appointments do you need to go on every week. And then when it's time to be off, it's time to be off. Here's another schedule. It's Adil Ismail's. He's Ismail. He's here in Toronto, and Adil is, a highly, highly productive guy. But what's interesting about Adil is he spends a lot of time setting appointments. So you can see all the red zone. That's what we call it, red zone. And then you can see when he does the appointments. Now, Adil's a little different because he is a buyer's agent. So he doesn't show property all. All he wants to do is go in, make all those follow-up calls, follow up on his internet leads, right? Phone his past clients, which he does 4 times a year to stay in touch and that sort of thing. And then he takes all of those leads and he tries to convert them into an appointment. Now, Adil only has to go on 2 listing appointments every week to achieve his goal. 2 listing. Now, most people go, that's a lot of appointments. But really, if you think about it, we got all week. 2 listing appointments doesn't seem that much. So he spends a lot of time generating the appointments, and then he fits them in to the 4 days. And then Adil is usually off weekends. Very seldom ever work weekends anymore. And this is an $800,000 producer schedule sitting right here in front of you. But again, he goes to the gym. He's got it all planned out. And again, not that you're going to follow the schedule 100% of the time, but what I'm saying to you is, do you have a guide? I have a schedule that I follow, and it looks something like this, but obviously I do different activities than a real estate agent would do. But I know whether it's creating, whether it's writing, it's reaching out to influencers. Every day I follow that schedule. I make a phone call, check in to see how somebody's doing. So the next step after we move from the scheduling is to being persistent and very, very consistent. I want you to write something down. Write down the word patience. Write down the word patience, because I believe that one of the things that maybe we struggle with is patience. We're not getting the results fast enough, right? So we fall back to an old plan, or fall back, or get depressed, or don't get out of bed, or whatever the case is. But an interesting something I was reading not that long ago, and here's what it said. It said that if somebody turns the tap off while brushing their teeth, and if they brush their teeth twice a day, that will save 7,000 liters of water per year. That's a big number, right? I go, 7,000 liters of water. I go, one of those little drinking bottles of water is like 500 milliliters. I go, that's like, I would save like 14,000 bottles of water just by turning the tap off when we're drinking water, twice a day. I go, wow. And sometimes we don't realize that in the world we live in, it's all the little things we do every day that, done with absolute consistency, are going to produce the biggest results in our life. So as we move forward, let me give you another example of that. So look at this. Let's say, because a lot of people think, well, I'm going to go crazy. I'm not really busy, and I'm going to work 12, 14, 18 hours a day and get it going. I go, I'd rather see you work a hard 6 hours a day, 220 days a year. I really would. Because that's all it really takes. It's just most people work really hard sometimes, and then they don't do much the rest of the time. But when I say consistency, imagine this. If you let's say you sent 5 texts a day, and let's say those texts were just offering a complimentary market evaluation. Hey, Frank, it's Rich here. I know the market's been busy lately, if it's been busy in your market, and a lot of people are wondering what their home is worth. And right now I'm just offering free market evaluations. Hope the family's well. Let me know if you're interested. Talk soon. And you sent that text. Well, if you send 5 of those a day, 240 days a year, which means you're off 125 days, right? That'd be 1,200 texts you sent a year. And that's lead gen texts. Or let's say you did this, just for fun. Let's say what you did. You might want to write this down because it's not on a screen. Let's say what you did is you said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And this is what I mean, your plan. This has to go in your plan. Okay, so this should be in your schedule, sort of thing. So let's say you're going to commit to phone 1 person a day, and you're going to phone a past client and check. Phone 1 person a day, and you do that 200 days a year. You're going to take 165 days off, and you do decide. And then you say, well, I'm going to send 2 texts a day. You send 2 texts times 200 days, that's 400. I'm writing this down as I'm doing it. I'm not really good with numbers. But anyway, and then let's say you say, okay, I'm going to go on Facebook. Now, Facebook, schedule Facebook times, maybe 10 minutes 3 times a day, because you can get on there and spend an hour on there and it was just a waste of time. Let's say you go on Facebook and you say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment on other people's posts. I'm going to do 3 of those a day. So another reach out. Hey, Joe, wonderful post. Looks like you had a great holiday. Man, the kids are getting really big. You know what I mean? It's been a long time since I've seen you. I hope you and Sarah are well. Something like that, right? You reach out. You want to become top of mind, right? You make a phone call. You don't get them. You leave a message. You send them a text. Social media. You're top of mind. All of a sudden they're going, wow, yeah, that's Richard Robbins. Yeah, we should give him a call. Or my sister's thinking of selling, and all of a sudden things start to happen. Well, if you did that 3, that's get us to what? That's going to get us to 600. So now we're 200 phone calls, we're 400 texts, we're 800 on Facebook and responding to other people's comments. That's 1,200 a year, and that's only 200 days. So imagine if you said, when I say persistent and consistent, I'm saying, what are the little things when you start to do your planning that you should be doing every single day? Because remember, it's the little things that make the big difference. See, it's the little things done with consistency over time that produce massive, massive results. It's no different than dieting. I see people all the time, they go, okay, I'm going to go on a diet. And I'm going to lose 15 pounds. And how fast they want to lose the 15 pounds? Well, by Friday. I go, well, again, it took you, I don't know what, 15 years to put it on, right? You get over 40 years old, you put on a pound here, pound there, pound here, a couple pounds a year, 3 pounds a year. Next thing one day, you're 15 pounds overweight. But you're going to lose it in 2 days. But think about this. If you just cut, there's 3,500 calories in a pound, right? And let's say you just cut, I don't know, something that's a Coke, 1 Coke a day out of your diet. I don't know how many calories it is, 130, I don't know. And well, how many Cokes would it take before you lose a pound? And let's say if you did cut, 100 and some calories a day, you're going to lose a pound a week or a pound a month. You lose a pound a month, that's 12 pounds a year. And that's not painful. That's easy to do. See, I always say that people don't fail diets. Diets fail people. They're too hard. You know what I mean? Like, you look at it, you say, it's a $50 billion industry with a 2% success rate, if you ever read about dieting. 2% success rate. And then every year, new books, new companies, new different ways of losing weight. But we try to make it too hard. Well, it's the same with your business. I don't think you need to make it hard. I think you need to make it consistent, right? People start to work out, and all of a sudden they get a trainer, and they spend an hour and a half at the gym. They wake up the next day, they can't walk, and they don't go back. Well, of course you don't go back. That was too hard. Start with a walk around the block. Start with 10 minutes on the bike and then maybe go to 15 minutes. You know what I mean? If you're not making any phone calls every day right now, start with 1 call. Do that for a week. Maybe go to 2 calls in the second week. But what are the little things that you could do with consistency that if you did them over a long period of time would produce dramatic results in your life? So we got to be persistent, and we got to be very, very consistent in what it is we do. Now, the word consistent I put in there because they say today it takes 6 to 8 contacts to get a hold of somebody. 6 to 8 contacts. Now, that could be email, text, because if you think about it, attention is almost a new currency. It's really hard. So, in other words, same with leads. You got to stay in the game. You can't just try them 1 or 2 times. 6 times, right? 8 times. After 8 times, throw it away. But you got to stay in the game. A lot of people, they give up just before they find the diamonds. They give up just before getting a hold because, well, I don't want to bug them anymore. Well, listen, at least give it a shot, right? And then number 7, before I take you in and show you the system, is review your progress every single month. So as you move into next year, if you look at it, you say, well, if every month is worth 8.3%, that means by the end of January, I should be at 8.3% of my goal. Well, can I redo the goal setting simplified now based on what I have to achieve, right? And how many appointments do I have to now set in February every week? So what I'm saying is that if you look at any business, they're going to track, they're going to monitor, and they're going to review the results. And then you say, okay, well, if we're off pace, then I need to change what I'm doing. If I'm ahead of pace, great, just keep doing what it is you're doing. And by not stopping once a month, and I like to do this, the first day of the month, right? Sit down, say, I'm going to take the morning of the first day of every month, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to review how I'm doing. And look at your numbers. What's your average commission looking like? What's your conversion rates looking like? How many times you put people in a car? How many of those people bought? How many opens did you do? How many people did you get through? And just look at your business. Just analyze it. Sometimes just by going through the numbers, you're going to have these great discoveries that are going to help you move your business forward. And then reset for the next 30 days. What do I need to do in February, right? And then do the same thing, first day of March, reset for March, and back at it again. Because now what you're doing is you're facing reality as it is, not as you wish it was. See, truth is a discovery of reality. No different than I recommend to my coaching clients. Sit down and do P&L, profit and loss, on your business and your life every month. My wife and I sit down. We've done this for years and years. By about the 12th or 13th of the month, we review all of the company's financials. How much did we make? How much profit did we have, right? What went right? What went wrong? And then we look at our personal situation. We look at, what is our budget for our perfect year, right? How are we doing? How much we spend here? How much we spent there? We got planned the way we want. How's the savings going? We look at all those numbers. We look at our net worth statement every month. And the reason we do is because the more often you look at it, the more adjustments you're going to make. They're going to keep moving you in the right direction, right? That'd be like, you start driving from here to Los Angeles, but you never look at a map. You might get off course. If you keep driving off course, you're going to be a long way from Los Angeles. So we got to start to review it. But at the end of this, remember that don't make it too hard. Like, to me, we get in this business sometimes and we try to make it way too difficult. You know what I mean? But remember, success is a process, right? That's what success is. Success is not an event. Success just doesn't happen in 1 month. A lot of people have a really great month and then let up. I'd rather see you be more consistent, because success is not an event, it's a process. It's being more consistent on a regular basis. Maybe not working as hard, right? But more consistently. And when I mean it's a process, I mean that enjoying your life along the way, building a business and building a life in a way that you wake up every day and you're excited about what it is you got to do. Not always tired from what it is that you have to do. So what I'd like to do now is you can maybe start typing in your questions to Mike. I'm going to take you in and do a very quick demo on this new system that we created. This is basically it's a multi-million-dollar training program, and we put in here, how to create a business plan, how to get a 20% return on your database, how to get, 1 deal per 2.4 open houses. So Dana's going to take us into the system, and I'll show you a little bit about the system. It'll take me a few minutes, and then we'll open it up for your questions. So if you go into RI on Demand, and this is what this new partnership we have with Roll a Page, which we're very excited about, it's all about, is when you open up RI on Demand, this is what you're going to see. So the people that decide to get involved in this will actually have their own username and their own password. So you will go in, it's like your system. You'll be able to see what you've trained on, what you haven't trained on. You'll be able to take your own notes. But what you see right now is there's a carousel. You'll see it says Training Center. And as Dana clicks this, you're going to see the carousel will move around. So in here, there's a video vault. I'll take you in there in a minute. Then you got a place where you can store your favorites. So if there's certain things, you can just click on favorites. You can find them all in there. And then in the file vault, this will be a fine listing presentation templates, buyer presentation template, script. There's over 100 documents in here. I mean, ebooks you can send to customers for buyers, ebooks you can send to sellers, all that sort of stuff. And then you've got your scorecards, so you can go in and see which courses you've taken, which you haven't, and it'll tell you how you're doing. So if we go back to the Training Center, I'm going to take you into the Training Center, and we'll just select that, open that up. And what you're going to see is it's going to come up and it's going to say, these are all the courses. So we're going to browse all courses, okay? You can see them all there. These are all of the courses. So what you'll see is these are the courses. So you can see you got the lifetime referral system. That's how I get a 20% return in your database. How to use a telephone, purposeful door knocking, geographical farming lead system, profitable open houses, referrals, social media online, lead follow-up, and how to convert them into appointments, listing mastery, buyer mastery. In there, you've got all of the steps to, how to do a listing presentation. You can watch a live listing presentation. It's all in there, okay? All the best practices. And then let's go to Business Planning Simplified. You have Financial Mastery, Time Management. So when you open up this, what you'll see is you're going to see, and we can't play audio because it would be a few seconds behind because we're playing this through sort of a webinar. But when you open it up, you're going to see it says the reason everyone needs a business plan, step 1 of 5, the rudder of your plan, step 2 of 5, identify your best sources of business. Remember I talked about it, how you're going to do your business. Number 4, create a budget to maximize your profit. We show you exactly how to create a budget. Create a highly productive day and week. We show you how to do that. And we give you all the documentation to do it. And then follow a 30, 60, and 90-day action plan. So what we do, we took each course. So this is one course, and we broke it down into chapters, very small chapters, so that you don't have to watch 50 minutes at once, but each chapter is like 5, maybe 7 minutes. If you watch a YouTube video, it says 50 minutes, you generally don't turn it on. If it says 5 minutes, you'll turn it on and probably watch up to 50 minutes. So they're bite-sized and digestible. So if you open up, the reason everyone needs a business plan, Dana will just open up that. What you'll see is it's going to come up. She's going to pause it because I don't want you to listen to me. And she's got it on mute. But what happens now is you start watching the course, it takes you through, everything you need to know about business planning. And you see where it says My Notes? Go up and click on My Notes. Well, these are your notes. So as you're watching, you can type your own notes in here, and then you can download those notes. You can export them. You can do whatever you want with those notes, okay? Plus, you see what says the purpose of planning. You're going to see a lot of visual assets. Plus, we have questions. So it's interactive. At some point, it stops and asks you a question. You have to actually answer the question before it will continue. So pretty cool stuff. So if we go back to these, the training center. So again, you go in here, and this is where you'll find all of the courses, okay, that you might want to take. Take as many as you want, as little as you want. Now, if we go back into the main menu, I'm going to take you into the video vault, and then I'll quickly take you into the, so let's have a look at the video vault. So if you open up the video vault, these are what we call flat videos. So in here, what you'll find is you'll find live role plays. You can see the one in the top right, that's a role play I'm making to past clients. You'll see to the right of that buyer presentation live, this is a actual live role play of, I shouldn't say live, but it's actually, in person, it's all recorded, of doing a presentation in an office and getting the people to sign buyer agency. So they called in, I took their call, we go through the whole thing, they give me all of the objections you could possibly get. Then we go to listing presentation. So if we open up listing presentation, you'll see that, again, you got the listing presentation, then you got additional scripts, listing objections you want to get. So all the objections, you get to listen to those as well. So again, you can watch this on your smartphone, your iPad, you can watch it on your computer, you can watch it at home. So if we go back out, I'll just take you into the, quickly take you into the file vault. And I'll leave it there because I don't want to bore you and waste your time, and I want to get your questions. So we go into the file vault. So this is a file vault. So let's say these are all the files. So let's open up Listing Mastery as an example. It's got 28 files in there. So inside here, you've got templates for listing presentations that you can use on your iPad. You've got, somebody calls in, we call it the intake sheet. We've got a number of different types of presentations. We've got ebooks that you can send to your potential listing presentations before you go over. But anyway, it just goes on and on and on and on. Everything you need is sitting right in here. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel has already been invented. Okay, so if we just go back to the main menu, and again, you have a little look at what it looks like. Now, the relationship that we set up with Royal LePage was that this is available to you at a substantial discount. So to give you some idea, the pricing for you is $197 one-time resource fee, and then you pay $67 per month, and that runs for 6 months. And then over that period, we release 12 courses to you. You can, watch as much or as little as you want. And of course, to register, there's 2 ways. You can do it through Royal LePage, or you can actually go to our site as well. So when I was talking about, lead gen, all of the best practices and training is sitting in right side of this course, but also the one that I highly recommend you do in the month of November, do the Goal Setting Simplified course and the Business Planning Simplified course. Start there and then move on from there, and maybe choose to do at least, 1 course every 2 weeks. And each course, each chapter is maybe 5-7 minutes. Maybe you said, okay, I'm going to do 1 a day. If you just do 1 chapter a day, you get through 2 courses, very close to 2 courses every single month. So saying that, I want to see if there's any questions. Thank you all for listening to me. I hope it was helpful for you today. And Mike, I'd be glad to answer anything I can.
All right. Well, the only question I see so far related to how long you had access to the course, and you just answered that. So I'll let people know again. I'll give you some time, give everybody out there some time if you have questions. These links will actually be emailed out to you So if you don't note them right now, don't worry about it. We're going to send you an email after this with a link to the webinar so you can rewatch it. And these 2 links as well. So if you want to learn more about ROI on Demand and access to that program, then you can check that out. At the same time, one thing I will add to what Richard said about the program is one of my first questions when Richard presented it to us was, okay, does this work on an iPad? Because, that's how I would be doing it. And yeah, it does. It works on mobile, iPad. And what's cool about that is, and he touched on it a little bit, but he said, it's micro learning. That's the big thing right now in learning. Micro learning is about these short little snippets. So, before you go to a listing presentation, maybe you favorite one of those videos and sit down and watch it. And that way you kind of get yourself geared up and remember, oh yeah, right, I wanted to hit these points. So still waiting for questions, Rich.
Okay, no problem. It doesn't have to be about business plan. It can be about anything.
How's it going? I did have a question for you myself, though.
Sure.
One thing I wanted to know is, you shared the spreadsheet and showed how you would leverage it. If you were in a team, would you then essentially, would you give it out to your team members and say, hey, I want you guys each to do this and bring it back to me within a week, and do one for yourself?
We have a team version. So what happens is there's a team version, and on the team version, you'll see it's just a bunch of columns, and the team member's name is in the column. And then what it does, it rolls all of the appointments up into the team appointments. So one team member might need to try to get them 1 appointment a week, somebody else maybe 2, that sort of thing, right?
Gotcha.
And then it rolls up, and then what they do is they meet, say, on Friday or Monday and say, okay, how did we do as a team? Our goal was to be on 8 appointments. How many did we get? So there is a team version of this as well, yes.
Gotcha. And Adele is asking, Adele Reed, she's actually from Royal LePage Connect in Scarborough. She's just asking about for the courses, because you mentioned 6 months, but I assume if you wanted to keep going, you could keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens, basically, if you want to keep going, you would just continue to pay the monthly fee, right? That's no problem. But what we didn't want to do is we were skeptical of, making it too long, because as you know, sometimes when you leave people too much time, they don't get to anything. You know what I mean? So it's sort of trying to put a deadline, because we would like to see, because ideally for the training, we think people should try to get through 12 courses in 6 months. Where the minute you said, okay, you got 12 months, then you know what I mean? They're going to take their time. So there's a little bit of accountability in that thought process, but we can work out whatever they want to work out. We want to be helpful, and if it's working for you and you want to be engaged, great. Well, we'd love to have you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that time frame is very beneficial.
Yeah.
So I'll reiterate for everybody, if you do go through the RLP network, and again, I'm kind of pointing out, hey, anybody questions? So you can check it out in the RLP network under training and training partners. You'll find them there under RRI on demand. Of course, you can check that out there. I'll invite everybody as well to our next sales success webinar. That's going to be on November 14th. That's a Monday. And it's going to be Tony Love, master trainer of Buffini & Company. Some of you maybe have seen him speak before. I know I have. And he's going to be talking about the secret ingredient to earning a fortune. So he's going to talk about the power of 3, the principle of before, and the secret ingredient itself. In terms of the next upcoming webinars as well, we also have our Building Your Tech Toolkit webinar. So on November 9th, I have Trish Manning, very well-known person. She actually did this presentation as a breakout in Vegas, which was it was a packed room for 9 a.m. on the Tuesday, which was awesome. But she's going to be talking about going Google, essentially looking at Google Apps and understanding how you could leverage them in your business. And then I forgot to update the date. This is November 30th. Sorry, November 30th. What is a podcast and why should you care? Featuring Nikki Ballou and Michael Palmer. These are creators of the top 10 podcast, The Business of Thought Leadership. It's going to be good. I'll tell you, they actually had just recently Seth Godin as one of their guests on their podcast. They have Chris Hatfield coming up in December. So these are 2 people you definitely might want to hear from. So let's have a look here. I do have some questions for you, Rich. So Adam Anderson's asking, with the courses, would there be a chat site for questions?
Is there a chat site for questions? No, there is not a chat site. It's a good question. There's not a chat site for questions. However, if you had any specific questions, feel free to call our office anytime. We're very helpful here, right? So, if you got any questions, just phone the office and we'll help you through it. I
can confirm that they're very helpful. I will definitely confirm that. And then Adrina Koch-Schulte is asking the spreadsheet itself. She said, will it be shared with them? She said, I may have been daydreaming already when you said the spreadsheet that you had for planning.
I don't know. I said that because I wasn't sure if you guys were sending it or
We
not.
could.
But we can. Yeah, I think we should. Okay, so Dana, I could make that available to you, and we can send just that spreadsheet out.
Okay, will do. There you go. Thanks for asking the question. I was going to ask that question myself. All right. Well, there you go. Those are the questions so far. Do I have anything else to say? Oh, the last thing I want to say is just where to get these webinars in the RLP network for you guys. So in the RLP network, under training, you'll find there's a section webinar training. And in that section, you're going to see all past webinars, so you can watch recordings. So, Richard came in and did a great presentation on lead generation last spring. It's one of our top webinars this year. And if that lead generation slide that he mentioned when he showed all those lead gen techniques, if you're wondering how to kind of get into those a little bit more deeply, definitely check that out. I mean, I would say, obviously check out RRI on Demand. You'll get a lot more out of it. I've done a number of the courses there. They are fantastic. But other than that, you can always check out that webinar and find out other webinars there as well. And also Learning Services ourselves, we're coming out live all across Canada. We're hitting New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, as well as I think we're wrapping up Manitoba next week. So if you're out in those areas, look for us as well under royallepage.ca/training. And you can always email us, learningservices@royallepage.ca. We are helpful too. It's not just RRI that are helpful. They are helpful, but us too. So let's see here. I mean, to be honest, we're just getting a lot of thank yous. You gave good information, so that's everybody just wants to say thanks.
Good.
Yeah. So I don't see any questions coming in. Rich, any last notes? I'll leave you the final word.
No, I always appreciate the opportunity, and just saying to everybody, I know there's some uncertainty right now about changes in the marketplace with the financial changes and everything else, and everybody's a little bit nervous. I've heard a little bit about it, but I said at the end of the day, everybody asked me. I said, look, we don't know. I don't think it's going to be catastrophic for sure. I think it's going to be just fine, but I think all of us, no matter what goes on, if we just put our head down. I've worked in real estate through a couple of difficult times, and put our head down, get our butts to work, and everything will be just fine. Always.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you next month.
Okay.